Hey guys, and welcome to a mini-series on installing a perimeter fence around our property over the summer of 2023.
In today's video, we are going to be talking about the overall scope of the project. It is all about fence post installation, a couple of prerequisites, tools and materials we rented and used, but otherwise bring you along for this portion of a really big project and a fun story, I guess. So to kickstart, let's go ahead and define some terms that we may use. What is a perimeter fence?
Perimeter fence is a fence that goes around the outside of your property.
The perimeter.
Yes.
Why are we installing a perimeter fence on our property?
Mostly for safety and security. We don't want anybody coming onto our property, especially with our kids playing outside all the time. And it also keeps coyotes and stuff like that from openly coming on our property.
Yeah, predator prevention. 2- and 4-legged, I guess, right?
Yep, that's true.
Not that we live in an area at all where we're really concerned about people, but definitely wildlife is a concern out here where we live, which is a very rural area. What you're going to see us install is what is known as a farm fence. It's a fixed knot fence that you mostly will see with livestock. We are not surrounding our property with a chain link fence, a privacy wooden fence, or a decorative fence. That being said, do we have plans of adding livestock? Is this step one of having a farm full of animals?
We have no plans right now to have any livestock of any kind. As some of you may know, we did have sheep in the past, and that is something that we have thought possibly in the future of doing again. So that is one reason that we did want to go ahead and do the field fence instead of just strands of barbed wire.
Yes. But again, no immediate plans for getting back into sheep farming. There's a lot of other infrastructure I would want in place first before we did that, and this is just about fencing. So this is a very large project, and there was a certain amount of prerequisite or before you begin work that we did. First and foremost, we headed over to Bekaert Fencing and used their online fence calculator tool to pull up our property. Shows an aerial view of it through Google Maps or other satellite imagery. I was able to draw what fence I wanted. It gave me a rough idea of measurements that I then came out into the field and double checked, but then asked me, how many gates do you want? How do you want this? Where do you want that? And calculated exactly all the materials I needed down to the staple. That is hands down a wonderful time saver and super, super handy. There are also live chat or support options you can have. If you get stuck, you use it and you need some help, Bekaert's crew are there to help you through it, and I highly recommend you do the same for a project like this. Before you begin this project and you ever disturb that ground, you must call 811, the Before You Dig service here in the U.S., and get your utilities located. It is required by the law in pretty much everywhere, I think, but worth it, absolutely worth it. It is of no cost to you, so definitely call 811 before you disturb that ground or do any kind of work like this. Other prerequisites was, of course, to purchase all of our materials, our fence posts, our fencing material, everything of the sort. Go ahead and buy all that stuff. Get it delivered to you is my recommendation. Save your back, buy once, and pay somebody else to deliver it, and get everything on site ready to go. The last prerequisite that we also did was to research, schedule, and book our machinery equipment rental for this project. We are renting a post pounder, post driver, and it's available from our farmers co-op out here where we live. I called ahead, got pricing, checked availabilities, lined up what I thought would be a good day with the weather, booked it, and secured that equipment rental ahead of time. All right, let's talk about fence posts. So for this project, we are using wooden posts for our braces and our line posts. For our brace posts and everywhere we have major elevation changes, we are going to be installing 6-inch diameter, 8-foot long treated wooden fence posts. For our line posts, which are in line with our fencing as needed, we are going to be installing 4-inch diameter, 8-foot long treated wooden posts. And then for the rest of our fence posts, we will be installing T-posts, 6.5 feet tall at a 20-foot give or take spacing. Again, all of this stuff, the material, the sizes, the quantities, and the overall layout is available through Bekaert's fence calculator. So definitely check it out if you're doing this project. Installing posts in the ground is not rocket science, but it is fence science, I suppose. So here was the overall process of how we installed our posts. First thing we did, once we called 811, had our utilities located, we had our fence plan overall, was to go out in the field, physically walk to these places where these corner braces, inline braces, gate braces, all of this stuff was going to be, measure and mark the ground. Once we had those positions marked, we then used the post driver and installed all of the posts for the outside ends of our pools. Some of these were corners because we had two fence pools meeting together, but others were just one side of the pool and the other side of the fence pool. We have our corner posts in place. We got down there at the other end our corners. Right here is another corner. What we're going to do now is take some of this mason string line, tie it to this post, run it, about 900 feet that way, tie it to the other, pull it very tight, and that will give us our reference line, our string line, to line up all the posts. Next up was installing the post for our braces. We have a combination of inline brace, corner brace, end brace, and just about every other brace that exists out here in Fenceland. Our brace design calls for a 10-foot long top rail, but I decided to space our brace posts about 9.5 feet away from each other. That way any variations in that 10-foot top rail post that I purchased from the store would not come back to bite me, and I was able to just trim a little bit to get the perfect fit for good tight braces. The overall steps for using the machine was to first and foremost get it in the right location. Use the onboard auger to pre-drill and auger out your hole into your ground before you start to do your post installation. Move that out of the way. Bring your post over, set it in place, and then drive it into the ground. Throughout the video, you may see what looks like to be a walking stick that I'm carrying around. It's actually a story stick. I measured it ahead of time, put a red mark with a marker around the top, which is exactly the height that all of these wooden posts need to be. Having something like that physically in your hand to hold up, walk around with, and spot check things is a lot easier to manage and handle than a tape measure. As far as installing the post, you just stand there, let the machine do all of the work, spot checking it, make sure it is plumb on a couple of different angles. Every once in a while, stop, look, make sure it looks fine, and keep on going until you're at the right height or depth and it matches your story stick. For this portion of our project, there is one piece of equipment that is the keystone, make it or break it. This machine that we have rented from the co-op is what is known as a post driver. We picked it up from our local farmers co-op, and it is available for rental by the day or by the weekend. We chose the weekend rate because we're DIYers. We're not professional fence installers, and we wanted to give ourselves as much leeway in time to get this job done without being a horrible situation, killing ourselves, or not having it done within that rental time frame. This particular unit is self-powered. It is a tow-behind unit, so no tractor is needed. Even though you'll see us use our tractor with this, there is a ball hitch on the front of this machine. You could hook it up to your truck, your SUV, your minivan, and tow it around your field, no problem. I will say this, you might be tempted or thinking, okay, cool, I'll put it behind my four-wheeler or my ATV or UTV. That may or may not work. This machine is extremely heavy, and as it is driving posts and running the auger bits, it wants to move around a little bit. We definitely found having someone on the tractor holding the brakes and everything made for a more stable, secure, safe feeling operation. I don't think I would trust this behind a four-wheeler. Possibly a side-by-side if it's a larger unit with some heft to it, some weight to counteract those forces going on back there, but I don't know about anything small. So it's worth noting and just keeping in mind. This post driver is one of two different styles that I have seen. This one is kind of more of a jackhammer ratcheting style. It has internal movements. There's nothing out there physically hitting it to drive it in as far as what you can see, but there is another post driver style that we've actually done videos on several years back on our channel, and that one was more of a sledgehammer style driver. I'll put a link to that video down below if you want to check it out and see the differences in the machinery styles. Between the two, this one feels so much safer. It is a lot safer, but it's also a lot slower. So pros and cons between the two, but if I had to pick, this one that we rented for this project is the same one I would still pick, just because of the safety standard overall. They're a little bit easier to use and less scary as an operation. To close out this segment of our project video, I've got a couple of questions here that are probably questions you all have asked as well. I'll go ahead and pose it as a Q&A session here. I'm going to quiz you. The question, first one I think most people would ask is, how long did this actually take us to do for installing all of the wood posts?
It did take a weekend because we went ahead and got a weekend rental. You can usually get a little bit of a better deal if you do a weekend at a time rather than just a day at a time.
Yep, that also allowed us to not be as stressed out trying to get everything done in one day while we also filmed everything in a day. Making a video about something makes it take 2, 3, almost 4 times longer than just hammering out the work. So for us, the weekend rental was absolutely worth the additional cost just from a stress reliever standpoint.
because you're always going to run into hard spots and you never know when that's going to be or how long it's going to take to get through them.
Yep, I think we will forever remember those 2 posts on that area of our property where we had to use a jackhammer, hand dig it out, and spend way too much time just to get them deep enough to be installed properly. So what are your overall thoughts about the machine rental?
It was totally worth it. It was so much better than getting out there with an auger by yourself or digging. That would be terrible. And it was just totally worth it. Although it is very loud.
It is extremely loud. So it's not a machine, if you like your neighbors, you want to be running in the early hours or late at night. Again, if you like your neighbors. And it's something that you definitely want to have hearing protection on for as much as possible. I also think it's definitely worth it from a standpoint of it is a self-contained machine. You don't have to have a tractor. Even though we had our tractor hooked up to it for this whole project, you could easily have it hooked behind a vehicle. It has a standard ball hitch, so you don't have to have special equipment. So don't let that make you immediately think that you're out of the game. This is a piece of equipment that you could still rent just with basic stuff.
Well guys, thanks for coming along as we started our perimeter fence project. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. We will also have a playlist below once we get all of our videos together, so you can click on that and see the entire thing from start to finish.
Appreciate you guys watching as always. Take care. We'll see you guys next time on the homestead.
Bye.